today for many reasons. Memorial Day is such a monumental holiday in this country, and to deliver a speech on such a day, I count it as a high honor and a tremendous privilege. But more than that, I see it as a great responsibility to honor those who knowingly and unknowingly sacrifice their lives so that you and I can live freely. Memorial Day symbolizes so much for so many. For many of us, it has become the unofficial kickoff to summer, observed on the last Monday in May, affording us a 3-day weekend that has evolved into somewhat of a celebratory occasion. On any given day of this holiday weekend, we are subject to smell food grilling at backyard barbecues, coupled with the sweet smell of freshly cut grass, as neighbors are abuzz with the sounds of lawnmowers zipping back and forth across yards to ensure our curb appeal is inviting. Motorcycles, dirt bikes, and ATVs are more prevalent on the streets, and there is a heightened sense of caution for the children who take to the sidewalks to play games and ride their bikes. It is the weekend when lines at the grocery store and the car wash are just a little bit longer. It is the weekend when both cemeteries and our streets are lined with the American flag. It is the day that we culminate on a parade and come together to hear a memorial speech such as this. Given the long weekend, some of us might find ourselves taking an extra day to relax and collect our thoughts, and or to remember those who have gone on to glory before us, especially those who lost their lives on the battlefield fighting for this country. While I am grateful for the honor and privilege to stand before you this day, I am somewhat conflicted because in a way, I feel as if I am not worthy. I have never worn a uniform, and neither have any of my immediate family members. Yet I stand before you, blessed to have benefited from the advantages that hundreds of thousands of people have died for me to enjoy. Privilege is actually an understatement when I think about the opportunities we now have. Yes, it is a privilege to be an elected official, but that is not what I'm talking about today. Today, I count myself as privileged not to have lost someone to the battlefield. Yet, I am grateful and humbled to be able to enjoy the liberties that over 1 million people have lost their lives fighting for. See, the reality is, this is a solemn and somber day for some. Somebody's child, spouse, sibling, relative, or friend was either drafted or volunteered to protect the freedom for all in this country, and sadly, they did not make it back home alive. That is what this day is about. It is about sacrifice, which is surrendering something prized or desirable for the sake of something considered as having a higher or more pressing claim. Other than Jesus Christ, I cannot think of a more noble sacrifice than a person putting their life on the line to ensure we are able to enjoy the liberties this country has to offer. Liberties, which are freedoms from control, free from imprisonment, free from restriction and confinement, and having the power and the right to choose. Today is about freedom. For those of you who don't know, Memorial Day was born out of the Civil War as a desire to honor the dead. It is estimated that over 600,000 people died in the Civil War from combat, accident, starvation, and disease. Since the Civil War, around 650,000 American soldiers have lost their lives in other conflicts, accounting for over 1.2 million people that have died for you and me to experience freedom, equality, and justice. Today is a reminder that freedom is not free. There is a heavy price that has been paid, costing this country over 1.2 million lives. If I were to attempt to call each of them one by one, it would take about a month to name them all. So while we may not acknowledge them individually, we recognize them collectively, and I respectively ask that we do not forget them, nor take them for granted, for they are the epitome of courage and selflessness. And if it were not for their willingness of those soldiers to stand in the face of opposition for something bigger than themselves, especially during times when it was unpopular, we might not be here today. And from their courage of the fallen soldiers were born more fighters, more revolutionaries, more activists, more leaders, and ultimately more heroes. Let us remember, someone died that I might be afforded the privilege to stand and speak before you today, to speak my mind without fear of intimidation from my government. Let us remember, someone died so that I could not only cast a ballot, but be a candidate on that ballot, that I might be elected to serve in a public office. Let us remember, someone died so that I could go to any restaurant I want without fear of discrimination based on the color of my skin. Let us remember, someone died so that I could be free to learn regardless of my gender, race, or religion. Let us remember, someone died so that I could be free to practice that religion however I see fit or none at all. As an African American female, I have been blessed to live all my days in this country under the guise of freedom. But when I check my history books and when I turn on the news, I am reminded there is still much work to do. Bigotry and misogyny are still abound in this country. When candidates are caught promoting sexual assault and performing physical acts of violence, can ascend to federally elected positions that were once reserved for those who demonstrated class, character, and compassion, I am left feeling unsettled, shaken, heavy-hearted, disturbed, troubled, and most concerned about the direction our country is going. What has happened to empathy, kindness, acceptance, tolerance, self-control, and the two most important things of all, respect and love? Let me apologize if I'm being just a little bit overly sensitive, sappy, syrupy, and sweet, but this is what the Lord put on my heart and mind today. If we are going to remain standard bearers of the free world, we must be vigilant against the vile language, vigilant against the violent behavior, and vigilant against the venom that is being pushed down our throats as alternative facts and the alt-right. I believe those who fought for the freedoms of all are turning over in their graves today, but I can't speak for the dead. Although I am sure there are a few in their graves beaming with pride, like Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson. As the removal of such Confederate statues are coming down, some have attempted to argue these reminders of racism should remain prominent parts of our history. Such reckless rhetoric and repulsive reactions, coupled with the lackluster leadership of an unprecedented president, calls into question our capacity to practice diplomacy, dignity, and democracy. So as I come to a close, I want to challenge you to ask yourself if what I am doing is promoting separatism and segregation or unity and unification.
Unity.
And then ask yourself, does your quest for individual growth contribute to the collective whole, or is it just a me, myself, and I mission? And then remember, we have come too far to succumb to acts of selfishness. We owe it to the 1.2 million that laid down their lives so that we might stand tall, free, filled with pride, and dignified, to just sit back and let the foundation of this nation be dismantled by the self-serving and undeserving. If we are going to remain free, we must come together in the spirit of love and unity while making the pursuit of peace our primary purpose. And if we do that, I believe acceptance and understanding will follow. So while this day has been set aside to honor our fallen soldiers, many of us will also pay homage and respect to our loved ones that may not have been on the battlefield, but have left lasting impressions on our hearts and minds. On this Memorial Day, let us be mindful that 1.2 million people fought and died that we might be free to choose whatever it is that we choose to do today. It is my hope that you will choose righteousness, respect, and honor today and always. May God continue to bless you, this city, this country, and the United States.